Hey there everybody, this is Jeff Vandrew Jr. and in this video I'm going to show you how to set up the BTCQBO plugin, which will allow you to synchronize your QuickBooks Online invoicing to your BTCPay Server instance. So I'm doing this on just a testnet node that I spun up here really quickly. The first thing that you want to do before you take any steps to get the whole thing set up is to make sure you're using the most recent version of BTCPay. So to do that, you're going to log into your BTCPay admin panel like we are right here. You're going to click on maintenance and then you're going to hit update. I'm not going to do that right now because I already know that I'm on the most recent version of BTCPay. But if you weren't, when you hit update, your BTCPay instance is going to power down for a little bit. It'll update and then it'll come back up. And then after it's come back up, you'll just have to log back in and then you'll know you're all set. Once you've got the most recent version of BTCPay Server running, the next step is to activate the plugin. Now, this is the only step that has to be done from the command line, and you only ever have to do this once, so it's not too bad. From then on, once it's active, it will update with BTCPay Server automatically when you do your normal updates. So to do that, you're going to have to log into your whatever, if you're using a virtual private server, which most people probably are. For instance, if you're using a Luna node, you're going to have to log into your Luna node via SSH. If you've never done that before, your username, if you're using Luna node, is Ubuntu, and your password is in your Luna node portal under your virtual machine. So I've already logged into my Luna node, so we're all here and we're good to go at the command line. And there's just a series of a few simple commands that we need to run to activate the plugin. So the first is we need to change over to the root user. And we do that by running the command sudo su and then a dash. Do not forget the dash. That's very important. In running that command, we can see that we're now in there as the root user. After we've done that, we need to change into the BTCPay Docker directory. So we change directories there, easy enough. We then need to set an environmental variable. The good news is if you're looking at the README file on GitHub for BTCQBO plugin, we give you the exact language there that you need to use to set that environmental variable. So I'm just going to copy that language. I'm going to paste it right over, hit enter. We're good to go. I've now set the variable. Then there's just one last step, and that's to run the BTCPay setup bash script. And that, again, I'm just going to copy that language directly over. Don't forget that leading period there. That is important. And then what's going to happen is, I'm not going to do it right now because it takes about 5 minutes, but if I were to hit enter right now, you'd see a whole stream of text come down your screen for a few minutes. It'll run for a while. And then at the very end, you'll know it's done because the prompt will just pop back up. So once you've done that, you're good to go. The plugin is now activated. So I'm going to get out of there for now. I already activated mine a minute ago. So when I go over here, after you've already activated your plugin, what's going to happen is when you log into your BTCPay server as normal, if you go to server settings and then services, now we have an extra external service added here, the QuickBooks Online connector. So if I click see information, it'll take me to the welcome screen for the QuickBooks Online connector. So there's a couple things we need to do in order to synchronize our QuickBooks to our BTCPay server, and these buttons are going to guide us through all the steps. So the first thing that we've got to do is we're going to have to get API keys from Intuit. That's very easy to do. To get our Intuit API keys, you're going to go to the website developer.intuit.com. When you go to developer.intuit.com, the first thing is in the top right corner here, you'll see I'm already signed in, but there'll be a button for you to sign in. You'll click sign in. You do not need to create an account. You can just sign in with the same username and password that you use to sign into QuickBooks Online. That will allow you to sign into Intuit Developer. Once you're signed in, you're just going to click on My Apps. Now, I've already got an app here. Yours are all going to be blank. So what you're going to do, you're going to have no apps. You're going to hit Create New App. And you're just going to hit Just Start Coding. Then under this QuickBooks API, you want the Accounting API. You do not need the Payments API. and then we're going to hit Create App. All right, so it has created a new app for us. The first things we're going to have to do is just go to Settings, and we're going to give this a name. You're probably going to want to call it BTCQBO. I already have an app called BTCQBO, so I'm just going to call it BTCQBO2. And I can hit Save. And we can go back to our dashboard. Actually, we're going to go to Keys, because this is what we want to get. We need our keys. Now, there's going to be two sets of keys on this screen here. The first are the development keys. The second, at the bottom here, are the production keys. So you're going to be using QuickBooks Online with a real live production QuickBooks company. So you need to get these production keys at the bottom, not these development keys up at the top. So in order to get production keys, you can see it's not available until you provide a EULA and privacy policy in the settings. So we click on that link and it says in the settings we have to provide a EULA and a privacy policy. Now, the EULA and the privacy policy in our case are essentially irrelevant because the only user of the app is going to be you yourself. But you do need, Intuit does require that you provide links there. If you don't have links to a EULA and a privacy policy on your website, again, if we go back to the README here, I provided links for you. So here's a sample privacy policy that you can use. We're going to copy that link. Where are we going here? Into the privacy policy. And then I also gave you a sample EULA you can use. So we're going to copy that into the EULA. And we then should be good to go. Again, I'm going to have to hit Save. And we're saved. Let's go back to keys and see if it'll give us our production keys now. And now it has. So now that we've filled in all that information, again, not only are the development keys there, but we now also have production keys. So one thing we're going to have to do before we start using these keys is we have to add the redirect URI. So again, that's information that I give you in the README here. The redirect URI is just the domain on which your BTCPay is hosted, followed by BTCQBO/BTCQBO logged. So I'm just going to, again, copy that information. I'm going to click Add URI. Add that URI. Now I'm going to take out the btcpay.example.com and use my domain. So I don't know what the domain is on this test version. So here it is. This is the domain that we were using on this test version. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to put that in. And I am then going to save. Whoops. And did you see the mistake I made? Because I wasn't paying attention. I made a very easy mistake to make. I put that as a redirect URI for the development keys. I actually need to add that for the production keys down at the bottom. So this is going to be a really common mistake, unfortunately. Not much I can do to make it easier. So now we're just going to add that URL on the... now we're good. So we've got our production keys. We've got our... Well, we don't need our sandbox keys. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to this welcome page for BTCQBO, and we're going to hit Set API Keys. So your QuickBooks Client ID. Now, this is a sample app that I'm going to take down right away so I can show you what it is. So there's our client ID. I'm going to hit Copy, and I'm just going to paste that in there. I'm going to go to the client secret, and going to hit Copy, and we're going to paste that in there. And then we've got a question here that says, is this a sandbox? Check the box if it's a sandbox. So for essentially everything that you guys are going to be doing, because you're going to be using live production companies, you are not going to check that box. You're going to leave that box blank, and you're just going to click Submit, and you'll be good to go. You're going to leave that box unchecked. I'm going to check it because I am using a sandbox company. And then I am going to hit Submit. And then you will see it's going to ask me, do I want to securely share my data between my QuickBooks company, which is obviously in this case just a fake sandbox company, and my app. So I want to hit connect to tell Intuit that I want to permit that to happen. And then you'll see up here it's told me the sync to QuickBooks Online has been successful. If you ever become unsynced in the future for any reason, you don't need to set your keys again. You can actually just go to Authorize QBO. The Authorize QBO button will allow you to just authorize QuickBooks Online without having to set your keys all over again. So we've done both of these things. We've set our keys and we've authorized QBO. Now we need to authorize BTCPay to have access. To do that, we click the button. This is very easy. Once you're here, you have to enter a pairing code in this box. So the link to enter the pairing code is already there for you. So you just click the link to grab the pairing code, and you won't get this pop-up about nodes syncing because your nodes won't be syncing. And all you have to do is just give it a random label. I'm just going to call it testing. Well, actually, you know what? We should call it BTCQBO so that we know what it is. You can leave this stuff exactly as it is. Then you're going to hit request pairing. And you're going to pick which store you want to pair it to. I only have one store on this BTCPay instance, the testing store. So I'm going to pick the testing store, and I'm going to hit approve. And then it's going to give me, don't go out of this page until you've taken this pairing code. So I'm going to copy this pairing code. I'm going to paste this pairing code in there, and I'm going to hit submit. And it's told me that pairing to BTCPay has, of course, been successful. The last thing that I need to do is this part is optional. If you want your customer to be emailed a receipt whenever they pay a QuickBooks invoice through BTCPay, which you probably want them to do, you're going to have to set up your email settings. So you're going to click here. If you want to enable email receipts, you're going to click this box. So don't forget to click that box. Your SMTP host is going to be given by your provider. So if you're hosting your own SMTP server, it's going to be the address of your server is going to go there. If you're using a commercial provider, like let's say G Suite for business, then you're going to get this information from their help support or their documentation, wherever you might get it. So for instance, if you're using G Suite, smtp.gmail.com is their host. Their port is 587. Their username would be your email address. Again, your username may be different if you're using a different provider. I'm just using G Suite as an example here. Password would be your normal password that you use to log into your email. If you are using G Suite or another provider and you have two-factor authentication turned on, you're going to have to get a application-specific password. And if you have questions about that, if you click this button here, it gives you some more examples on, more information about how to do that. But again, you only need to worry about that if you're using two-factor authentication with G Suite or another provider that allows two-factor authentication. The send from address is probably going to be the same as your username, but you could list it as something different. This is the address that your customer is going to see the receipt sent from. And then this box, you're just going to put an email address where you want a test email to be sent. By filling in that box, as soon as we set up our email settings, what's going to happen is it's going to send a test email so that we know everything was done correctly. And then in this last box, you're going to put the name of your business as you want it to display on your receipts. So if your business is called Bob's Widgets, you'd probably put Bob's Widgets there, and when your customer gets emailed a receipt, they're going to, on that receipt, it's going to say, payment receipt from Bob's Widgets. And when I'm finished entering all that, I'm just going to hit submit, and we'll be good to go. Then we're all set up and synced on the plugin side. From there, the only thing left to do is we need to change the settings in our QuickBooks company to make sure that our customers know and have a link to click on to pay their invoices via BTCPay Server. So here's just a sample fictional QuickBooks company, and I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do in order to make that work. So first of all, you're going to have to change your outgoing email message. So in order to do that, you're going to click the gear here, and you're going to hit Company Settings. You're going to hit Sales, and then you're going to scroll down to Messages. You're going to make sure that the sales form there says Invoice. Okay? Now, I've given you in the README here a sample email message. So what you can do is we're just going to copy this word for word. We are going to paste it in there, and we're good to go. Now, what we've done is now when we get an invoice, this is Craig's Design and Landscaping, this fictional company, our customer is going to get an email that says, attached is your invoice. That little thing in the brackets there, you want to leave that exactly as it is. QuickBooks calls that a placeholder. And as long as you leave that exactly as it is, word for word, QuickBooks will automatically fill in the correct invoice number there. And then we're telling our customer, hey, if you want to pay in Bitcoin, just click on this link. QuickBooks will automatically turn that into a hyperlink when you send the email. And then it also says here, if you're still, not only accepting Bitcoin and you're also accepting fiat currency, if you'd like to pay in US dollars, you click the Review and Pay button below. The Review and Pay button you don't have to worry about. QuickBooks generates that automatically so long as you're set up with QuickBooks to take payments. So that's it. We're just going to save that. So now our outgoing email message will be good. And then we also want to deal with our forms. So to make sure if somebody gets reminded again, if they're looking at the invoice itself and they don't have the email right in front of them. So to do that, you're going to hit the gear, custom form styles. That's going to take you here. You're going to click edit, and you want to go to footer. And in the message to customer, we want to let our customer know in the footer again that he has the option to pay in Bitcoin. So again, whoops, here we go. We're just going to cut and paste that information right there. And of course, you're going to want to change the yourdomain.com to whatever your actual domain is. So we're going to save that as well. And now we're all good to go. So let's take a look at what an invoice looks like when it's sent this way. I'm just going to pull up an old fake invoice. We don't need to worry about that. And I'm going to hit Save and Send. So we see, don't show me that message. Okay, we're going to see what our email is going to look like. So what's going to happen is our customer is going to be told here, attaches your invoice 1036. If you'd like to pay in Bitcoin, click on this link. If you'd like to pay in US dollars, click on the Review and Pay button. And then attached to this email is going to be a copy of this invoice, which also, again, says here, well, this hasn't been updated yet, but here in this message, it's going to say that they can also have that option to pay in Bitcoin. Yeah, this isn't updated because this invoice was created before we made those changes. But as you can see, all your outgoing invoices are now going to have that information. Now, the one thing that's missing is when your customer clicks on that email and they get it and they click on that yourdomain.com/pay, they need to be taken to an actual page that will allow them to generate a BTCQBO invoice. So the way you're going to do that is you're just going to pick a page on your website. So I'm going to assume for purposes of this demo that you're using WordPress. If you're using a different platform, obviously you can do the same thing I'm about to show you. So what you're going to do is, if you're using WordPress, you're just going to create a new page in WordPress, and then you're just going to copy and paste this code right into that new WordPress page. And bingo, it's going to generate a form that is styled automatically to your website. So whenever anyone clicks that link in that outgoing QuickBooks email, they're going to pop right over to this site, which will give them the ability to pay in Bitcoin. So you're going to copy and paste this code word for word. The only things that you're going to change are btcpay.example.com. You're going to put the domain where your BTCPay server is hosted, not your main website, wherever your BTCPay server is posted. You're going to leave the BTCQBO/verify at the end. So you're going to change that, and you're also going to change the notification URL. Again, you're only going to change the btcpay.example.com. The rest is going to stay the same. And then the redirect URL is whatever URL you want your customer to be redirected to after they pay their invoice. So it might just be your regular website, so you can put any URL you want in there, and that's fine. Everything else should stay exactly the same, word for word, in your WordPress site. So what's going to happen is, assuming that we've coded all that correctly and copied and pasted that into WordPress, this is what the page that our customers are going to be taken to is going to look like when they click on that they want to pay in Bitcoin. Now, yours page will be styled differently. It'll be styled however the CSS on your page is styled. This is how my test page is styled. Obviously, instead of test, it'll say pay in Bitcoin or something like that. And they're going to enter their email address. So because I'm using a sandbox company, this is the email address that relates to the customer on the sort of fake invoice there. The invoice number, and then they're going to enter the amount they want to pay in dollars. Now, when we hit pay now, what this is going to do is it's going to ping into it, and it's going to make sure that the invoice number and the email address match. And they're doing that for a couple reasons. Number one, for the customer's privacy, so people can't just randomly look at other people's invoices. And number two, this is going to allow, they're not going to see the invoice anyway, but they're only going to see the amount that they want to pay. The bigger issue here is it prevents typos. So that in case, let's say I put the wrong invoice number, this will prevent me from paying somebody else's invoice because it's going to ping my Intuit company. The email address and the invoice number aren't going to match, and it's not going to let me make the payment. Now, in this case, the email address and the invoice number match, so I'm going to hit pay now. And boom, we've now got a BTC Pay invoice, which I am now going to pay. So we can see that that has now been paid. Now we are going to flip back to our QuickBooks store, and we're going to see what has happened there. All right, so now we are back in our QuickBooks store. And why did I bring us back into our QuickBooks store? Because I want to show you that as soon as the customer made that payment, what's really cool is it automatically recorded that payment in our QuickBooks company. So if we look and just look at recent transactions, there's our BTC Pay payment. It came right through. So we're all good to go. I didn't have to do anything. There was no data entry involved. Everything was fine. And that's it. So now you're all synced up. Every invoice that you send out will automatically have that link in it. And whenever a customer pays, the payment will automatically be recorded back in QuickBooks Online. And before they pay, it'll check to make sure they're not paying the wrong invoice. Thanks a lot, and I hope you find it useful.